this is a surprise. Thank you very much. I mean, thank you to you, because without you, I'm, quite alone. So thank you very much for your work. Thank you for your continuing and close cooperation. I know that sometimes I put a lot of pressure on you also about the deadlines, but well, Johanna will explain to you this afternoon why. But I think we realize good things. And just to tell you, we will finish with this movie about Salzburg, and we will stop for lunch. And this afternoon we will change a little bit the agenda, because we are obliged. Some people, I told you that they don't have a flight or whatever. So we will start at 3 o'clock. But just before leaving, so before going out, please stay here for the picture with the whole group, because some of you we will leave and I want to have everybody on the picture. So Salzburg, and lunch break afterwards. Thank you. Good afternoon. Do you hear me? Good afternoon. Can we start, please, because time is running and we still have some presentations. So we will start with remaining route implementation plans from this morning. And I give the floor to Simone Quilici from Regione Lazio, who will present the plan for Lazio and for Italy. Thank you very much, Simone.
Good afternoon, everyone. So today I will talk on behalf of Regione Lazio, and then my presentation will be official. But let me first tell you something personal, because today I'm very happy to be here and having heard all your interesting works of all the partners. But on the other hand, I'm also sad because it's the last day of our project. So I would like to take the opportunity to thank all the partners and in particular our great coordinators who really made a great job. And so this was a very pleasant experience. But I'm sure that we will have future opportunities to meet, because now we have our plans and we have to implement it. So I'm sure we will have some opportunity to meet again and evaluate how these plans are working, okay? And especially we will have to find some indicators for our plans. So we definitely need to meet again, I hope. Anyway, let's be short because we are a bit late. I will try shortly, as far as possible, to explain the main contents and methodology of Regione Lazio Route Implementation Plan for the design, phasing, implementation, governance, and valorization of free existing cultural routes in Lazio region. The Route Implementation Plan has been produced by the Culture Directorate of Regione Lazio, together with our own in-house company, BIC Lazio. It focuses on the integrated, sustainable development of free cultural itineraries. The Lazio stretch of the Via Francigena, a major cultural route of the Council of Europe, along its entire itinerary from Canterbury to Rome, that in Lazio joins Acquapendente town at the border with Tuscany to Rome. The Lazio stretch of the Via Benedicti, that leads from Subiaco to Monte Cassino and follows the journey of Saint Benedict through 9 stops, each one hosting a monastery of high religious and artistic interest. And then, last but not least, the Via Marina, the ancient Roman road connecting Umbria region and Rome, that in Lazio leads from the town of Orte to Calcata. So, as you can see, it's 3 itineraries. 2 are religious pilgrimage routes, medieval pilgrimage routes, and 1 is an ancient Roman road. So we had actually a variety of choice of cultural routes in Lazio. We have many themes that we focus on in our activity, in our institutional activity. But we chose 2 kinds of heritage, of cultural routes. An ancient Roman road, which is, of course, one of the most important kind of cultural routes in Lazio and all over Europe, probably, and 2 pilgrimage routes. Here you can see a map of Italy, then of Lazio. In the middle of the region, you can see Rome. Then in yellow color, Via Francigena, the portion north of Rome. Then we have a southern portion, which will be probably declared European cultural routes in the future. In purple color, the ancient Roman road of Via Marina. In orange color, the Via Benedicti, the Saint Benedict way. As I was saying, it's quite a few years that Regione Lazio is working on cultural routes. It's actually more than 15 years. And so we can easily say that before Certess, Regione Lazio had already completed the first sections of the RIP guidelines of the toolkit, route startup and development, regarding the free good practices identified since the very beginning of Certess project. The RIP has then focused on the last 2 sections of the guidelines, focusing on implementation and governance. In particular, the main objectives are integration among the free routes to share practices and exploit economies of scale, collaboration between public and private sectors, monitoring of routes. Promoters of the RIP have been the Lazio regional government, together with provinces and local municipalities. Stakeholders have been trekking and open-air sport associations, natural parks managements, tourism enterprises and promotion associations, all important actors in the cultural routes management that can give inputs and feedbacks for the local territorial development. After evaluating their economic and technical feasibility, the RIP actions have been identified in the field of route use, integrated promotion of the routes, relationship between routes and the territory. The common needs and the main issues highlighted by the analysis of the RIP have been identified on the basis of a series of interviews and focus groups with all the stakeholders. These needs include a series of necessities, as for instance, maintenance of a route, harmonized signposting, integrated communication, a dynamic website, but also an accreditation system for all the free itineraries, networking with other institutions, improvement of a local public transport system, networking with local small and medium enterprises, fundraising, support to voluntary work. So these are the necessities that have been identified during the focus groups and working tables with stakeholders. From the analysis of some of the best practices that emerged during Certess project, a value chain for RIP actions has been identified and subdivided in 4 sections. Safety and maintenance, that includes maintaining the current level of safety to prevent criticality on the fixed path, and improving the maintenance of the track and the vegetation, and need to release the maintenance duty from volunteering, from which it is still too dependent, implementing and standardizing signposting. Then, second section of this value chain of our RIP is development, that includes creating an integrated communication about the route, increasing awareness, improving studies related to the development of the area. Then section number 3 is management, that includes services such as creating a certification release system of stops, which actually already works for Via Francigena but doesn't apply to our other routes. And then networking among local and small and medium enterprises in the field of reception, catering, food and wine. Then logistics, such as improving local public transport, big problem, probably we won't solve it with the RIP, and enhancing the economic environment. Then fundraising for activities that are still too dependent from the spontaneous contribution of the municipalities in the field of maintenance and promotion. Then finally, number 4, web, that includes collaboration such as networking with other institutions in order to convey a sense of unity and to facilitate the access to funds. So I tried very shortly, it's almost more an index than, it's almost impossible to summarize a plan in a few minutes. These were the main content, but then we were asked to assess the plan, not just to illustrate it. So I'm very happy to announce that we have already some tangible results of our RIP. For example, and as I was saying, has been very much concentrated on governance issues. And I'm very happy to announce that we already achieved our first result, that has been the approval of a framework agreement for a technical committee for the governance of the routes that involves all local municipalities along Via Francigena. So actually, 18 mayors along Via Francigena signed an agreement for a joint governance of the route in the field of maintenance and promotion. And I must tell that this is very difficult in Italy, because probably you know that municipalities in Italy, probably all over Europe, are a very old institution. They are very important, but they have also a problem of having not good relations, every municipality, with the neighboring ones. And so it's very, very difficult to make them agree and to have a joint, for a joint governance. And also a very good news is that also the municipalities of Rome are joining this framework agreement, and this is really a great result, because for Via Francigena we never really managed to join Rome in this route, because they probably have other problems. I mean, it's a big city with already a lot of tourism, and Via Francigena and other cultural routes are not their priority. So they always had a sort of, let's say, snobby attitude towards these cultural routes. And on the contrary, Regione Lazio has an institutional task of developing not only Rome, but especially the surrounding small towns, okay? So this is a big result. We managed to join 18 municipalities and also Roman municipalities all together. Then another positive feedback of the RIP has been a positive check of the application of the general methodology that is based on a realization model that we can call integration model. I already talked about this integration model. It's a bit complicated. I'm not going to explain it in detail because it would take too much time, but just very briefly, I can tell you that on the vertical arrow, there is internal integration, which is the governance, something which is intangible, invisible, and deals with the institutions and stakeholders involved in the governance. On the horizontal arrow, there is external integration, which is something tangible, which leads to quality and is perceived by the visitor. And this involves communication, promotion, everything that is tangible for visitors, tourists, okay? So the integration of these two, governance and on this vertical arrow and this external integration on the horizontal arrow, which is something that can be perceived, which was the model of our work, actually came out that had a positive effect. I mean, the plan, having this model as a reference, worked quite well. Then we were asked to say what are the next steps. In our opinion, we need an analysis of the impacts, environmental, economical, but also other kind of impacts, caused by the RIP actions on the territory. And then, of course, we need an identification of success indicators of the RIP actions. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Simone and Lorenza and the whole team, Ilaria and Mariella and Massimiliano, but you are just a part of the team, so I know that it's a big back office support also. But the presentation also, I know it, so it is only something like, I don't know, 1% of what it was done. And if you have questions or you have to learn something about all their experiences in Regione Lazio, which is really huge for years now, you have the opportunity to ask questions afterwards. Thank you very much for your work, for your participation, and for also this presentation. We will put the video for Regione Lazio, and after I will give the floor to Andalusia. Constantino Ramirez will present the Andalusia route implementation plan for cultural routes in the region of Andalusia. You have the floor, Constantino.
Well, now, good evening to all the partners. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased to be here with you. I hope it's not the last time we meet and we are together. I'm sure we will be in some other place and with another projects, as I hope. Being the last one in taking the floor, is there something else? Partners, yes, German. Okay, well, almost the last one. I have enough perspective to say congratulations to all the partners that have been already explaining their route implementation plan. I'd say especially to those that have presented a new route to which they have applied a route implementation plan fully and completely. And of course, congratulations as well to the Lazio, to the region Lazio, because to my mind, to my opinion, it has been almost an academic way of implementing a plan for the routes. My case is not exactly one of these new routes, because at the time we engaged at the beginning of the project Certess, we had already in the region a good bunch of cultural routes going on, already existing. I count up to 7. And besides that, during the development of the Certess project, we had no new candidatures for the as new cultural routes. Most of them, or all of them, all the existing cultural routes have had the financial support of our regional Ministry for Tourism and Commerce. And on account of this, not having a new route to apply route implementation plan, we decided that the best thing to do and to concentrate our efforts was to try to compose kind of a corpus of orientation, maybe, who knows yet, rules or advices for not only for those existing ones to enhance their performance, their managing and the development, but also for the new one to count that I'm sure there will be new cultural routes in the region that will be appear and they will come to the Ministry of our Ministry of Tourism for financial support, and then we will be in position of offer them a route implementation plan with the last technology on implementing cultural routes. Well, we have based our RIP anyway on the following pillars, in 3 main pillars. The previous experience that we have in the region through these cultural routes existing already, and the instruments or governance we identify in the course of the project of Certess projects. Also with the suggestions, opinions that the promoters of these cultural routes they made to us to embed and to implement a cultural route. The second pillar is the benchmarking we carried on with other partners, obviously with you, on instruments, governance, good practices, and with a special mention, I'd say, with the site visits that we had the opportunity to be here and there in four places, in 4 different regions, and of which personally I took good notes or the good things they or you were doing in the development of your route. Pardon me. No, I'm going to. So thank you. My plan is that once I read this kind of introduction, I will go through the 5 or 6 slides that I have, and to show you something. And the third pillar is the results of the tutoring sessions and the mentoring sessions that we had 4, although I missed 3 of them. I'm sorry. But the last one we had was in Granada with the president of our lead partner and the professor of different universities of the region, from Jaén, Seville, even from Madrid, and other experts. And then I can go through this first one is more or less a summary of what I've been saying so far. The route implementation plan that we have prepared should serve us to enhance the management and success of the already existing cultural routes, to create new cultural routes with a more comprehensive technical approach. The new ones will have this new situation with more elements to implement a cultural route. And the route is structured in two blocks. The state of the issue of the present days cultural routes. I mean, we had to make an analysis of the situation, the present situation of the present day cultural routes in Andalusia, and a decalogue that we have already included in the route implementation plan of good practices for the already existing cultural routes and for the future ones, obviously, along with the recommendation that we, as Regional Ministry of Tourism and Commerce, we will suggest them to apply in the preparation for the route if they want to get some financial or technical help from the ministry. This other one is just to give you an idea and an overview about the cultural route in Andalusia 16. The trip to the world of Iberians, Seville City of Opera, El Legado Andalusí, which is has the recognition of the Council of Europe of European itinerary. Jose Maria El Tempranillo, who watched the bandits, and we try to remember to reproduce the time of these bandits in the 19th century under a romantic view nowadays, and so on. Castles and Battles, cultural route in the province of Jaén, Paths of Passion concerning the Easter time in a bunch of municipalities in the core of the region. The Easter festivity in this group of municipality, this association, has been appointed by the regional ministry as of regional tourist interest, and so on. Just to show you the amount of, and I had a particular interest in showing you this particular this slide, because this is the summary of how we have conformed the RIP of the region with the several inputs that we use to shape the route implementation plan. You see the from up to down our own experiences, the experiences of our cultural routes, and the Certess tutoring sessions. And in this middle and low part of the slide, I have wanted personally to quote and to mention those instruments of governance and experiences through the site visits that I saw and appreciate and took good notes during these site visits in the course of the Certess. And in particular, you see Regione Lazio, the your logo is upstairs, but anyway, I appreciate very much the eco-districts that we visit. And the entrepreneur incubator we see, I think it was in Viterbo. Okay, and also I have wanted to mention the normative, the legge della via francigena, is just to understand each other. But I think it was the legge of number 40 of 2006. That was the first one, but then you have this second one, especially focusing or concentrating in Via Francigena, kind of ruling and exactly. Well, this is a good example for us to bear in mind, because we have also a law on tourism of Andalusia, and he mentions in particular the cultural routes as an element of diversification of the tourist product in the region. But I think this is a particular one, and concentrates more in the cultural roots, in this case in Lazio region. From the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, and also from the Institute of Research of Salzburg, I appreciate very much their programs on ITC, the new technologies for the information and communication, and you're applying to everything, to every route, as first before a couple of minutes ago, Veronica showed in her presentation. From Silvio Ganci Association, I got impressed in the way they manage the services and the route in itself, and the recovering of traditional rural professions. I wonder if you remember those who were there. Which one wasn't a bakery, an old bakery, I remember, and an eco district as well was associated to the cultural route. And from Slin Regional Authority, I took good note as well of the dissemination, the constant presentations they do to disseminate the San Cyril and Methodius route, the association of cultural routes of the points of interest and so on. So these are integrating the elements, and they are incorporated to our route implementation plan in the region of Andalusia. The next one, this is the RIP's practical application to Andalusian cultural routes. Here is the decalogue for Andalusian cultural routes based on these 5 main points, uniqueness of each one, but the necessity of cooperating among them, sustainability, of course, management efficacy, to foster public-private patterns of implementation, basically because in all the cases, I think, promoters need some kind of financial support from the public administrations, and they in the end, they come to us to say, give me some money to put this into practice and to develop it. Joint ventures in promotion and marketing, recommendation in the other part of the slide, previous actions to be implementing of the cultural route, development of the cultural route, design and planning, and implementation, management, and promotion. And finally, I think this is the last one. We have foreseen an action plan for the Andalusian cultural routes from 2015-2020. Creation of an Andalusian route and itineraries network. This is the only way for these different cultural routes we have in the region to gather together, to get together, and to have sufficient, strong and force as a speaker before any entity, any administration, in particular our administration and tourism, and I think it's good for them instead of operating separately one by one. To create a label, Andalusian cultural route, as a seal of quality commitment, joint technical assistance and follow-up for the and follow up for the cultural roots. So altogether, I say that the RIP should serve as a corpus, as I said, of orientation and checklist to be followed by promoters to enhance the management and the possibilities of success of the already existing cultural roots in our region, and preserving the cultural legacy, obviously, and integrating local economy actors. This is very important. This is one of the experiences I have seen in the site visits in your regions. Second, it should seek to create new cultural roots in a more comprehensive technical approach to contribute to a better dissemination of the European political, economical, religious values, and finally, to a wider scope, the RIP should also contribute to raise and increase awareness in our local and regional authorities about the increasing importance of cultural tourism for the region, therefore also in the cultural roots, as a driving force for the social and economical activity of the territory, as proven year by year in the annual report on tourism, which is a book or a report issued by our ministry, by the region, and also by the World Tourism Organization. Over 1/3 of our visitors, and I'm talking about more or less 22 million visitors to Andalusia, over one third are coming to the region because of cultural reasons, be it the main or the first reason for them, or the second or the third. So I think it's a reason enough to raise this and to keep in mind all the time when planning tourism, a reason enough to keep this RIP implementation plan to keep on this line of importance of tourism, cultural tourism for the region. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Constantino, and to Andalusian region. We were impressed, very impressed also about how many roots you have in Andalusia and the richness of the heritage, of course, but also about these good practices which we all remember, like the management plan of Alhambra, and also how Alhambra, as such a big site, helps the other sites, the smallest sites, to keep them alive. And it was, I think, a very good example, and we keep it in mind. It was also the example of Opera Route in Sevilla, which is an urban trail, and it was also a very good example. Maybe we can also take it and to see how we can implement it in Luxembourg in a way in the city, because we have a lot of potential on it. So thank you very much. We will put the movie, and we will give the floor to Germany after, Baden-Württemberg. Thank you very much. So, last but not least, a very, very close region to Luxembourg and the greater region, Baden-Württemberg. So, Annika and Christina will present the route implementation plan and will represent Karlsruhe partner in this project. You have the floor.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Being the last ones taking the floor puts a lot of pressure on us, but we will try to keep the presentation short. My name is Christina Merz, and this is my colleague Annika Hügle, and we are from the Karlsruhe Institute of Technology, which is located in Baden-Württemberg in southern Germany. We will present, or we called our presentation, Regional Route Methodology and Networking, and I'm sure you will soon realize why. First of all, to give you an impression, as I said, Baden-Württemberg is located in southern Germany, near to the French and the Swiss border. And unfortunately, I don't have the time to mention all the cultural heritage assets that we have in Baden-Württemberg, but only to mention a few. We have the UNESCO World Heritage Site, the Abbey of Maulbronn. We have several castles from several decades and principalities, like, for example, the houses of Hohenzollern or the famous castle in Heidelberg, which attracts hundreds of tourists every year, not only from Europe, but also a lot of Japanese and Chinese people. But we have also a lot of natural heritage assets, like the Black Forest area, famous, for example, for hiking, or also the area around the Bodensee, the Lake of Constance. Perhaps this might be a reason why we have a lot of cultural routes in Baden-Württemberg. I only put a few on the presentation, like the Swabian Baroque route, the Bertha Benz route, the Baden-Wein route, the Heinrich Schickard route, the route of the Romance, the Romantic route. But what we've realized when we started with the Certess project is that all the routes are different. Of course, they have a different theme. Some focus more on the natural, some more on the cultural heritage, or the combination of both. But they are also different in their length, or regional or interregional expansion. And most of them are not recognized or awarded by the Council of Europe. The Heinrich Schickard route is recognized, or the Huguenots and Waldensian Trail. But what we've realized when we started and we've talked to people and done research is that there is a huge difference in the route's tourist attractiveness, which means some are even not recognized by tourists. Maybe tourists, they drive along a road and they see a sign, but they don't know what does it mean, should I follow the sign or not. And often there is a difference in the combination of culture and tourism, which in the end means that there is a difference of the routes in their cultural and economic value for the region. This was our starting point in the Certess project. And we then decided to take several steps to reveal the needs of the cultural routes in Baden-Württemberg, or at least one main need. And of course, we did some document research, but then we started to talk to people, and 2 times we interviewed with a structured questionnaire some cultural route operators or tourism network representatives. And we've also organized a very intensive workshop last year, and you can see the stakeholders on the slide, with cultural route managers, but also people from tourism providers, a representative of the Chamber of Commerce for the economic side, representatives of networks that are somehow directed to the promotion and valorization of a cultural heritage, representative of a regional public body for preserving cultural heritage, and someone from a local office for city development. And in the end of the day, we elaborated or revealed the need, or one main need and challenge for the cultural tourism and tourism stakeholders in Baden-Württemberg. And this is the question on how to establish a cultural route in such a way that it can be strategically managed and coordinated over a long time. And we decided to focus on this question, and therefore our final document, I don't know if we have still some, there were some outside at the registration desk, but we have also a PDF document that is publicly available, so whenever you want to have it, please come to us and talk to us. So our final document, our final implementation plan has two parts in the end. And the first part is about recommendations for developing a cultural route network, because this is the first step in answering the question how to establish a cultural route, means how to establish or start with a network of stakeholders. And in the second part, we provide a practical guideline for the development of cultural routes. And it can be used from cultural routes that are just, or networks that are just starting, and also from already established networks to follow the development stages over time. And I will now hand over to Annika, and she will tell you more about those both parts of the document.
Okay, hello everybody. I will start with the process, how we came to our recommendation. We started with an analysis of selected good practices and governance instruments, mainly from the Certess project. It's a list here, you can see. We have 2 examples from the region Baden-Württemberg, but we also have 2 examples from the region Lazio. And also we decided to take a look on Odisea, which Baleares, the Baleares and Andalusia is a member there. Why did we do that? They are all in the focus, they all have different focuses, and we wanted in our analysis show some similarities and differences between the networks. So how did we do that? We developed a strategic questionnaires for written and oral interviews to gather detailed information, and we had with all the networks deeply interviews, where we had the possibilities afterwards to compare our information. So this all goes straight along a governance process which we identified, because these networks are always go this way. There are some initiators who come together, talk to each other, and they find a common interest for cooperation. And then they take the next step. They find procedural rules and decision-making principles, organizational structures to work together. And then they create a network to cooperate with each other. So with this in our head and with the gathered information, we analyzed our informations, and we found out that there is a process in this network development, and it starts with the first step. There are some small group of partners which are really homogeneous. They have similar motivations and interests, and they don't need really fixed decision rules. So they start in the first part on a consensus-based network. In the next step, when there are coming new members to the network, and the network is going to develop in a further way, often the next step is a formalization of this network. This formalization normally takes place in a statute with precise goals and decision-making rules. There are then more heterogeneous members in size, and also, and this is the most important thing, in motivation. And then, that was a thing we found out, this is the first step where they have to implement hierarchic structures, because the homogeneous of the first step, where they have a consensus-based decision making, is not working anymore. Then the next step, what we found out is that the status they developed has to take to reality. They have to implement the rules, and they have to find a capacity to act. Which then often, and this is the next step in this development or in this process, is that these rules they developed in the first place are needed to be adapted. And that's why these rules need a kind of flexibility to adapt these new steps and these new processes. So in the end, as you can see in the red part, it goes back that the status needs to be adapted to these new motivations and new interests, also because often they are coming more members to the networks. This is kind of a circle which is going always in a certain time, always back and forth, until they come to a certain point of a lot of members. Then the network has a critical quantity of members, and then it's really necessary to get to a capacity to act, that they have more hierarchic structures, so that not every member has the same integration, not every member has the same right to decide on how the network is going to develop. And and then is a result from our side is that then on this stage the flexibility is more statute. The flexibility, that's why the lines are not so strong, because the adaptability is not as easy as it is in the steps before. So this is a process of developing a network behind a cultural root, and that's the first part of our root implementation plan. And this one is accompanied by the practical guidelines. So this is kind of on the practical side. A route is going to develop step by step with practical things, what we heard already today. And behind these scenes, the network has to work in itself, to work in a functional way, to have a successful route in the end. So that means, where is this going to? Well, no. Whoop. Yeah, no. Our plan has two parts. On the first part is the recommendation for developing a cultural network, which you saw in the slide before. And the second part are these practical guidelines for developing a cultural route step by step. And both parts are together our route implementation plan, and that's why we call it a policy document, because it's on the one hand an advice for policy decisions in cultural routes in Baden-Württemberg, so it's directly to the ministry of our region, and it's on the other hand also a guideline for practitioners who work with cultural route every day. And that's where we try to also link these two actors together, because they then have a common understanding of where to go. So, thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. We will put a video for the Baden-Württemberg partner, and after that I will introduce Mr. Neumann, who will present the part4 project. We changed a little bit the program because some of the people, they have to leave. They have trains or planes to catch, so like the time was a little bit too long. So we will put a video and I will do the presentation after. Thank you very much for Germany. And with this, we finished the presentation of the partners of Certess for the route implementation plans. But as from the beginning, it was a requirement of the GTS to cooperate with other interregional projects or with other Interreg 4C or other Interreg projects. From the beginning, also, we tried to interact with some projects which dealt with cultural routes or cultural tourism. And it was the case with eCreate project, because they also worked on a route which is certified by the Council of Europe, which is Transromanica, on the Romanic art and culture in Europe. The other one, it was a charts project, which dealt also with culture routes for a small part. With part4 and also Forte Cultura route, which are Interreg or Central Europe routes. So I have the pleasure to give the floor to Mr. Neumann, who will present this fortifications route in Central Europe. He will present it very briefly. We will have a small video, and with this we are finishing the presentation of projects and plans. So you have the floor, Mr. Neumann.
Thank you very much. Sorina, thank you really very much for the invitation. It was a very short invitation, you know. We are all under stress and finishing our projects. My name is Dr. Neumann, co-developer and manager of Forte Cultura project. Forte Cultura is an Interreg 4B project with a project sum of 1.6 million euro. Originally applied for 2.4 million, but European has shortened about 800,000 euro, but without shortening the work. So we have some problems now. Can you change the last page? Yeah. The main aim of the project is capitalizing of fortified heritage in Central Europe. We do it also by creation of a culture route. We have 6 work packages: Work Package 1 and 2, Administration and Dissemination. Work Package 3 is Capitalization and Market Implementation of Fortified Heritage to support economic growth of cities and regions, especially with electronic marketing. Work Package 4 is strengthening the impact of fortified heritage for urban, rural, cultural and social development. Work Package 5 is creation of Central European culture route to capitalize on fortified heritage. And Work Package 6 is exploitation of traditional knowledge and expertise for protection of fortified heritage. We had 12 partners, included 5 scientific institutions, and we have 7 associated partners. After a 2.5-year work, we are finishing the project on 31st December 2014. In November 2014, so in 4 weeks, there is a creation of the network and a creation of a permanent agency for continuing the project in 2015 following. In the first September week this year, we could realize an implementation tour for winning partners signing the letter of intent. Letter of intent is precondition for creation of the network and also the agency. If you are interested in my full presentation, you can exchange it here on laptop. It is downloadable. And Sorina, if there's a question, please, it is free for everybody. Instead of my presentation, I want to show you now a 15-minute film. I have seen a lot of wonderful films this morning, and we have also created a film. And this film will show this implementation tour from the first September week and how we were winning the mayors to sign the letter of intent. And the film explains also a little the main topic of our work. Thank you very much, and if you are interested in some printed material, a newsletter and booklet are laying outside before the door. I hope that there will be synergies with you also. We are in contact with some partners, like in Poland, was a wonderful Certess conference, really Certess conference with Horticultura and Wroclaw. Thank you so much. And I hope one day we can continue also in Malta and other wonderful places in Europe.
Europe gains a new tourist attraction, the European culture route of fortified monuments, Forte Cultura. Europe possesses an extraordinary cultural heritage, the architecture of fortified monuments. These monuments bear witness to dramatic conflicts between empires and dynasties like Habsburg, Hohenzollern or Venetian. The Architectura Militaris are precisely constructed defense monuments, a fascinating art of fortress building to protect people, their privacy and their possession. The Italian military engineer and architect Michele San Micheli is considered as the inventor of the modern bastion fortifications in the 16th century. The French general and Maréchal de France, Sébastien le Prestre de Vauban, also known as Ingénieur de France of Louis XIV, is the most famous master builder in history. Many fortifications bear the seal of the UNESCO World Cultural Heritage, among others, Fortress Hohensalzburg, Fortress Marienberg in Würzburg, Citadel Geller Mountain in Budapest, Fortified Ideal City Sabbioneta. The fortification architecture is surprisingly diverse and full of life. Forte Cultura begins the European Contact Tour of 2014 in the fortress city of Kystrin nad Odra in Poland. Already in the 16th century, Brandenburg's princes built a fortress at the confluence of two large rivers, Oder and Warta, at the town of Kystrin. It became one of the largest and most beautiful fortress towns in Prussia. In this fortress, the famous Prussian King Frederick the Great was stationed as an officer cadet. The once magnificent fortified town is a ruined city today, called Pompeii by the Oder. The end of Second World War, the fortress town with its wonderful palace and church was destroyed. Today, the ruins are admonishing of war and suffering. During the annual Kystrin Fortress Days, the European cultural route, Forte Cultura, gets considerable interest. With a salute, the Forte Cultura European Contact Tour 2014 starts in the direction of Lower Silesia. The impressive Palace Fürstenstein, today Książ, is a pearl of Silesia. It has elements of fortification architecture and belongs to the special types of fortified palaces. 3 architectural styles, unified to a unique and beautiful ensemble: Gothic, Baroque and Rococo. Richly decorated rooms invite to an enjoyable discovery tour and to stay overnight in the romantic Hotel Książ. Underground, the palace hides a dark secret. During the Second World War, Hitler planned the construction of headquarters, Führerhauptquartier, in 2 levels. Across from Hitler's bedroom, a hidden tunnel leads 15 meters into the deep. Here you can still feel the breath of war. The construction of the headquarters has never been finished. The larger rows for the forced laborers who built this tunnel system was very near. Many people died there. The place Neisse, today Nysa, is located on a major trade route through Silesia. In 1742, the Prussians began to expand the former Austrian fortification to a modern bastion fortress system around the city. Bastion Jadwiga is a well-reconstructed place with many interesting offers for tourists and visitors. During the year, the Nysa Stronghold Nature Park is a venue for many events like the Nysa Fortress Days in July. Restaurants, exhibitions, and a fascinating guided tour with a multimedia show in the dark tunnels invite to stay here. The Silesian fortress cities Nysa, Srebrna Gora, and Kozle participate in the European culture route Forte Kultura.
Thank you very much.
The famous Marshal Radetzky was one of the commanders of the Austrian fortress system Olmütz, today Olomouc. Around Olomouc, a lot of single forts form a defensive perimeter around the city. Forte Kultura visited one of them, the Fort Krylov, and its private owner, Mr. Pavel Chihal. The fort offers a small pension and a restaurant. Interesting exhibitions, for example on the art of cinematography, entertain the visitors. The journey continues to the Danube River in the Hungarian town of Komárom, formerly Komorn. On both sides of the Danube River, the Habsburg monarchy established a large fortification system with many fortifications still preserved today. Fort Monostor with 3 large bastions is one of them. The very active local association organizes many annual events, exhibitions, and a theater stage with a rich program for all ages. The star city Palmanova in Italy is a famous and wonderful example of a fortified ideal city. Mighty bastions and deep trenches are surrounding the whole town. Around the 8-corner central square, the church, the commandant's office and the city hall are located. 3 portals control access to the city. The Municipal Museum is home to an interesting exhibition about the town and fortress history, as well as some surprises. Each year, a historical costume commemoration reminds of the founding of the city in 1593. Few people know that there are over 70 fortress monuments hidden in the lagoon of Venice, including Forte Marghera, completely surrounded by water. Where once the Austrian occupants used to reside, today one may linger in cafes, watch artists in their workshops and enjoy the beautiful nature. Famous UNESCO World Cultural Heritage City of Venice, the marine arsenal where the fast Venetian ships were built is an impressive sight. Today, it is still an active facility of the Italian Navy. The entrance to the lagoon of Venice was once protected by the fort of Sant'Andrea. Today, it welcomes the large luxury liners. Well hidden behind a wall lies the round Maximilian Tower, which today is a cultural exhibition center. Verona, known for Dante and Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, is one of the most beautiful and important cultural cities of Europe. Here, monuments of more than 2,000 years of fortification history built by the Romans, the Scaligeris, the Venetians and the Austrians can be found. It is the cradle of bastion architecture. Parts of the fortress facilities belong to the UNESCO World Cultural Heritage. A special construction work of art is the Sanctuary of the Madonna de Lourdes, built in 1958 on an Austrian fort. The Fortezza in South Tyrol is a typical fortress barrage of an alpine valley built by the Austrians. Long underground stairs and tunnels connect the intricate architecture of the fortress. Here, tourists find attractive exhibitions and entertaining cultural programs. The Fortezza Franzensfeste enriches the experience of the cultural route Forte Cultura. The mountain fortress of Kufstein in Tyrol is visible from a distance. It is famous for its arena with many events, festivals and changing exhibitions. Fortress Rosenberg dominates the town of Kronach. The region of Franconia is richly equipped with such fortified monuments. They often emerge from the wars between the Roman clergy and the evangelical Protestants. Five Franconian strongholds signed a cooperation agreement and joined Forte Cultura under the sub-label Franconian Fortification Art. The Saxon mountain fortress Königstein is one of the most breathtaking fortifications in Europe. High above the river Elbe, it offers a fascinating view over the landscape. More than 350,000 tourists visit this monument each year. They are presented with a program rich in variety, like the Canaletto exhibition. The Elbe River fortresses of Dömitz, Torgau, Magdeburg, Dresden, Pirna, Königstein, Terezin and Josefov will join the cultural route Forte Cultura under the label Elbe Fortresses. The European Contact Tour 2014 was an impressive and successful journey to the fortified cultural heritage in 6 European countries. The European Cultural Route Forte Cultura welcomes all fortification for a cooperation in the European cultural tourism.
it is a good good example maybe to how to build a network and how to make the mayor signing the documents and the agreements, because it is you have afterwards you have the agreement signed for sure for all the network, and could be a good start to cooperate together. So thank you very much. I don't know if you have questions for Mr. Neumann, because he will leave. If not, you can do it also through the email and the website of Forte Cultura project. Thank you again for coming and for presenting our your project in our Certess project also. Thank you very much, okay, and keep in touch. We'll be in touch. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you again. Have a nice day. And now I want to start maybe this more institutional part of the meeting, and I apologize for these delays, but well, we had a lot of unusual problems. But I want to introduce Penelope Denu, who is the director of the European Institute of Cultural Roots, but also the General Secretary of the Enlarged Partial Agreement of the Council of Europe. So I give you the floor. I don't know if you want to present something or to put a website, but no. So you, maybe the website. So you have the floor, yes.
Oui, par exemple. Je peux le mettre. Je peux manipuler. I feel like I've been introduced about 4 times to all of you, but hello again. I am not going to take up an awful lot of time, because I think you must be absolutely exhausted. I unfortunately wasn't able to spend the whole day with you. As I've said to some of you on the margins of the meeting, we have our annual advisory forum in Baku next week. So we're really in the real sort of deep organization of that at the moment, with all the particular issues that raises for a destination which is a little bit on the edges of our European, Greater Europe, of the Council of Europe. Yeah, the title that I was given in the program today is Perspectives, Future Perspective. What I find interesting in your projects and in your work is that you have all outlined some future prospects, some future steps, next steps that you would like to undertake in your different projects. And so I've been reading those with interest, and I find that they are they are quite varied, as your projects are quite varied, and as you was said before, with kind of shared objectives, you have some quite different views of what the future might hold, obviously, because some of your projects were destined to create new cultural routes for certification by the Council of Europe, or not particularly. Others were destined to integrate into existing cultural routes, which I find is also very interesting and well, to be encouraged and promoted with you. But what I do find, first of all, very interesting in talking about future perspectives is that the work that you've done is work that sometimes our certified cultural routes do not take time to do, or are perhaps too involved in actually managing their routes and actually doing the grassroots work on the ground. And so I think they will be extremely interested in looking at the models and looking at the toolkits and looking at the tools that you've developed here. And I think that will be very interesting for them to see, first of all, how you have analysed some of the routes that we have certified in the Council of Europe, and how you interpret these routes and their governance. So I think that one of the first measures of future steps will be to disseminate the results of your work to the cultural routes. We'll discuss that with Serena, where we can sort of find the routes all together. Probably one of the first opportunities will be a little bit, it's a bit of a medium term. It's not quite short enough, but we can send them materials and draw their attention to the results of your program. But one of the first opportunities will be our summer seminar next year. That's not until another maybe 6 months, but at least I think that your results are solid, so they will stand the test of a few months waiting before we can sort of show them directly to a great majority of our cultural routes. So that is one of the first outcomes. I think that you're looking at your results. They will be useful not only for yourselves, but also for our existing cultural routes. The database of good practices is also something really which we will find very, very, very interesting. I have heard that there is an idea to sign a memorandum of understanding. I think that is something to be considered maybe a little bit further. I myself am rather careful about the memorandums that the Institute signs, because we have in the past and now and probably in the future we do sign these, but then there tend to be a great sort of quantity of signed documents which do not have the follow-up that they need. So I think that needs really looking into to see what the objectives of a memorandum of understanding would be, and what the added value of a memorandum is. So coming back to the perspectives of the future from the point of view of well, our point of view, my point of view as director of the Institute and as executive secretary of the enlarged partial agreement. Of course, we will very much welcome new candidates for certification as Council of Europe Cultural Routes. We have this year 7 candidates for certification in 2015. So every year, as you well have, you've heard during the tutoring sessions, during your training sessions, we have new candidates for certification. The Committee of Ministers has set an objective of developing the programme, of increasing the number of cultural routes. We've kind of slowed down the demands of the Committee of Ministers by explaining to them that it's not a question of certifying as many cultural routes as possible, but it's a question of certifying high quality, excellent cultural routes. So we wish to develop the programme. We wish to have new cultural routes. We do not wish to have just a quantity of cultural routes that are not examples of excellence to show throughout Europe and to showcase. But I think with the 3 years that you've spent together working on methodologies, working on governance, working on route implementation plans, that projects that come out of this Certess programme will at least have that know-how behind them, and all the shared solutions that you have been looking at. So at the moment we have the 29 cultural routes. We have the 7 candidates this year. So presumably next year we'll go over the 30 routes mark. And of course the Institute is ready to work now with those projects which have developed new proposals for routes. So whether it is the St. Cyril and Methodius, we've been following that project for a while anyway in the Institute. Some of the other routes, the Balearic Islands and the castles and palaces of Silesia and transhumance, we have not had the chance to actually cooperate together in the Institute, but we really I've seen a pile of apples in the Institute there, so our cooperation is starting now, I think, with that, with a sack of apples. So that's very nice, a good sign for our future cooperation. I think that the implementation plans for joining existing routes, some of which are really hot off the press, and so I have not had the chance to actually look through them properly. For example, the one which is interesting for us in the greater region, which is the integration of the thermal, the greater region into the thermal towns network, and also the Finnish proposal or project to integrate the St. Olaf route. I think that is really, really an encouraging sign as well for us, because some of these routes which are, well, again, either very much to the north, very much to the east, very much again to the south, they are more complex or there are more challenges to actually developing these networks. And so that is it's very good news when we hear that there are initiatives to develop these routes. And in Resolution 2013-67, just to mention that, which is the rules for certification, there is a provision which says that the existing routes, or the routes once certified, should seek to develop their networks further and further into Europe. So these initiatives, again, that you have within the Certess program, which aim to develop existing routes, can only be supported by the Institute, can only be supported by the Council of Europe, because that's what we want for our routes, is that they develop their networks. I was also struck by the presentation of the Forte Cultura program, because of lots of things, because there are lots of intersections between our cultural routes and new cultural routes and the geographical places in which they cross. I was in Istanbul at the weekend for the final conference of a smaller European program called Verotour, which was showcasing or illustrating the influence of the Venetian merchants, and there Palma Nova was represented. And so there again there's an intersection between all of these, well, not all of them together, but there are links which link up all these different programs. And I think that that's also a future rather impressive and rather daunting prospect, in fact, is that these networks have a tendency to get even denser and to intensify, and it becomes rather a very dense network, which is sometimes difficult to follow and sometimes difficult to see who the stakeholders are and what they are actually doing in the field. So just one or two perspectives of once, well, you hopefully have either integrated existing cultural routes or become official candidates with the Institute, or even are certified by the Council of Europe. I think that you may see, or some of you follow some of the things that we actually do within the program. The Institute's role is, of course, to act as a centre for resources for the Cultural Routes program. Its work is to assist new projects and to assist certified routes and to advise them. It is also to evaluate the new candidates and certified routes every 3 years. And it is also to organise training sessions and also to serve. Now we have a new formalised university network, for example, to act as a centre for knowledge throughout Europe. So once you are an official candidate or a certified route, then you will benefit from the tools that the Institute, that the Council of Europe develops for its cultural routes. The governance side of things, which I've seen the governance instruments identified, which are very numerous, which will also be fed into our own work on governance. We are at the moment proposing to member states and ministries, for example, to create or to set up a small working group on how to better communicate between the national, regional and local authorities and the council and the cultural routes. So this is something that we are looking to develop further, is that there be a stronger support from ministries, a stronger support in this kind of vertical line of cooperation between different stakeholders of the program. And this we will discuss in our Baku advisory forum next week. Talking about the forum, that is also one of the main events that we invite candidate routes and their partners and their stakeholders to. It's the annual advisory forum, which takes place every year at the invitation of a member state. Last year, we were in Colmar, we were in Innsbruck last year. 2 years ago, we were in Colmar at the invitation of France. Last year we were in Innsbruck at the invitation of Austria. This year we're in Baku at the invitation of Azerbaijan. And next year we'll be in Spain in Aranjuez, which Spanish people don't recognize where it is when I say it. But it's a UNESCO site, which many of you will probably know, which is near to Madrid. So that is one of our really big annual events, is the annual advisory forum, where you will be invited as candidate routes or as members of networks. We are also developing our training programs in a more systematic way. We're working with the United Nations World Tourism Organization, who has a foundation in Andorra la Vella called the Themis Foundation, and they set up tailor-made training for cultural heritage stakeholders. And in this case, we held a pilot training session in Gaillac, near Toulouse, in September, which was a tailor-made training session run by UNWTO, but for cultural routes of the Council of Europe for developing tourism strategies. And this we hope to carry over from a pilot project to a regularly organized training sessions for our routes. So just all of this to show that our program is slowly expanding with the resources that are made available to us, which are not particularly large in these times, whether it be an international organization or a country. Culture and cultural heritage are not always as high as we would like them to be on the agenda. So we are developing slowly in relation to our resources. The member states of our enlarged partial agreement are getting more involved, getting more interested, are not there anymore just to vote on budget or just to look at the activity report, but they really do want to be more involved in the evaluations of candidates, in the award ceremonies for diplomas, simply in the actual life of the cultural routes. So that is a very good sign, I would say, institutionally, that I can bring along. We are continuing our cooperation with the European Commission. The Council of Europe has joint programs with the European Commission on a lot of different subjects. Over the last 3-4 years, we've had joint programs, Council of Europe, European Commission, on developing capacities for Council of Europe cultural routes. We're ending one at the moment, and we're going to start a new one in the beginning of 2015, which will run until the middle of 2016. So we have a kind of medium-term perspective on our cooperation with the European Commission, which enables us to carry out a certain number of activities. In fact, the training session with the UNWTO was funded under the joint program with the European Commission. So it's a kind of three-way cooperation there. So this is something also that we can bring to you as members of Roots, is, I would say, our joint work with different international organizations. We're beginning to work a little bit more with the OECD as well. UNESCO, I can't say that we have active cooperation, but we know one another, we exchange information, and we have dialogue, so that is also already a kind of firm foundation for future work with UNESCO as well. We're running an Erasmus Plus, a small Erasmus Plus program next year, where we're going to identify cultural root studies, what are existing within cultural heritage management studies, where there are actual courses which address cultural roots very precisely, and then we will put these together, and we'll be working towards, again slowly, in the proportionally to our resources, towards a certification for cultural roots studies, with, first of all, the small network of universities that we have started working with, and then we will expand next year this network of universities to a broader group of universities. So there are some perspectives, a little bit in, I don't know in the right order or not, but just to give you an idea of what the life of the program is, and what your program, ending program, is going to feed into ours, and what we can give back to you in the future. Just to a couple of dates for next year, if you are well, you are now on our mailing list, and hopefully some of you on our candidate list next year. Our summer seminar will be at the beginning of June in Osnabrück in Germany, at the invitation of the megalithic route. And the forum, as I've already mentioned, will be in the autumn in Aranjuez. So these are the two sort of major events of the year where Roots and other partners come together, and during the year we will have a calendar of all sorts of different events in the cultural roots, in the member states, countries, and in new or potential member states as well, training seminars and information seminars. So thank you very much. Thank you for your presentations as well, and I'll hope to see some of you again in the very near future. Thank you.